I'm here with Bradford Ferguson of Rebellionaire, and Bradford says he, like me. Anyway, we're both on pins and needles with regard to Robotaxi and FSD version 14.3. We'll get into that in a minute. And then first quarter shipments are out in 2 weeks. I'm not sure whether Rebellionaire has taken a stance yet. And then Bradford had an X post that teased a hot stock. We'll talk about that in a few minutes too. Um, First thing first, I mean, you said that Elon liked one of your tweets. Tweets.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
actually,
yeah.
X post.
So like it's not likes aren't public anymore. So you can't really it doesn't really like give your tweet like a ton of
Action.
interaction. But so this one was about Ashok Ellaswamy at GTC. He said that Tesla runs Optimus as one continuous model, high-level decisions and low-level motor control all happening together in a single pass. So one big model together. The
Hmm.
same architecture as FSD. So you got planning and then the low-level control, right?
Mhm.
The hierarchy people assume exists only in the developer's mind. For the model, it's one unbroken decision space running in real time. The companies building humanoids with separate stack systems are going to feel the architectural debt for a long time. So
Hmm.
Elon saying, it's better to have control and decisions and planning all in the same model.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So, um, theoretically, then other people, to the best of our knowledge, might be setting up different uh,
Schemes.
schemes than having it all in one. Does this also apply then to the digital Optimus? Do you think same idea that it'll all be one?
Uh, yeah, I think it could also apply to that. So you have like the shorter term or immediate things it's going to do, such as like click a button on the screen or select a field to type text into or whatever. But then it's going to have a like a longer term goal that it's trying to accomplish that you're telling it to do for you. So I think that would it would carry over, yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. And this would be harder for a competitor? Would this be harder for Figure or somebody else to make it all one as opposed to three or four or five?
I think mainly it's like two or three
Okay, two or three.
for,
Okay.
for the other companies. What I've heard about some of the other companies is there's one that has like a really beefy um, graphics unit in it that does like a bigger model. So it's trying to do like a Chat GPT model. It's possible they change an approach, but the bigger model would be more for like commands, decisions, and planning.
Hmm,
And then you'd have the smaller chip that handles, control of the robot.
I see.
So like having two different chips, which hurts their battery life, and can potentially create confusion. Um, I think that was approach that was adopted earlier, and uh, I'm guessing people are going to try to move away from that, but it's very tempting to be like, okay, well, let's divide these things in our minds so we can think about,
Hmm.
okay, yeah, how does a robot accomplish this? Like, we gotta focus on one thing at a time with our human minds. And like, okay, we got to accomplish the control in one aspect, but then we have the overarching goal. Um, so it better just to combine the two.
So is the robot going to be like us and have competing items trying to interfere with our workflow and children children crying in the background or
Yeah, or it might forget what it's doing,
Oh, no, no, that never
that
never
kind of
happened to
thing.
me
Like
ever. Yeah,
it'll
yeah.
walk into a room and be like, why did I walk in here?
That you're too young for that to be happening. That's
I'm
not
49, so no,
okay.
it's been happening for a
It's
while
it's
already.
getting there. Huh? Um, all right. So next subject is that you've been following the robotaxi situation as closely as anybody that I know. We've had a long list of hints over the last few days, including the 14.3 situation.
Mhm.
So, do you think that we are going to have to wait for 14.3, which sounds like it's 3 or 4 weeks away? Or do you think that robotaxi will start to actually bloom before 14.3 comes out?
I suspect we're waiting for 14.3. I
Okay.
think they're wanting it to be a little bit better. Yeah, Tesla's operating autonomously or supervised, and when they operate this way, they have to report every accident that happens, whether it's to the authorities in California or in Texas.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and there's these little accidents that happen in the parking lot where it's backing up and it hits a light pole or
Right.
a concrete thing that's holding up a light pole or whatever. And there's been some other things, very low speed, low amount of damage, if any, it'll buff out, that type
Yes.
of thing.
Yes.
Um, I'm hopeful that a lot of those could get cleaned up, but also the latest models just had some regressions as far as navigation.
Hmm.
So like improving those so that if you're taking a trip, it's not like gonna take a wrong exit or whatever. Also, I'm just hopeful they start using the freeway soon. Like it would be really cool
Yeah.
if when they did unleash the floodgates, they allowed these robotaxis to use the freeway.
Yeah. 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 For sure. Um, so, so I do have a quick story to tell because it's funny. So I'm still on, 12.6 or whatever, but I was going down to San Diego. I think it was coming back from San Diego, and there's a turnoff where the two major freeways split, like a Y
Mm,
split, and they were working on the direction that I needed to go. But you were still allowed to go that way. It was just kind of you had to figure out how to do it. And but lots of cones and lots of other kinds of stuff. Uh, the what do you call it? The robotaxi, the robotaxi, the full self-driving missed it, went to the
mm,
next exit, which is great. Turns out it wasn't that big a deal. But when it got off the freeway, apparently it didn't have enough information to make a decision. It pulled off onto the gravel and
mm.
stopped. Just sat there for about, I don't know, 7 seconds and then went back
Mm.
into traffic again. So,
Wow.
so it was like, oh, let me wait, what should I do next?
How do
So,
I get there?
how do I get there? And it picked a very good route.
Mm.
Uh, okay, so you think we got to wait to 14.3? You think they're waiting to make it really slick when it comes out?
Yeah, I don't think they'll wait to make it perfect, but um I think they're excited about the new version. They've been developing it for quite some time. If it's ready, and maybe they'll have to do some dot updates just to clean it up a little bit, but um, I'm guessing it's going to be a big leap forward. The model is going to be 5 or 10 times larger, so more parameters in the model, so it should be able to do more. I'm
Right.
yeah, I'm excited to see it. I, I was anxious that it would take them a while to do this, so I'm not surprised that it may end up taking 4 months compared to when um you know 14.2 dropped or what or got polished up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if we come out in April, of course, as everybody's always saying, what difference does it make whether it came out in December or April? It's going to have the
Yeah.
same impact long term. But there, it looks like a lot of a lot of ground is being prepared. A lot of fields are being furrowed. Um,
Mhm.
Dallas and Orlando, and there's a whole bunch of different Las Vegas. So I would
There
think,
appears to be more testing going on in some cities. There's more fleets being prepared. Like there's some kind of fleet of cars in Vegas. They have the window the camera washers on the rear cameras in Vegas. So, it's possible those aren't for Robotaxi. Maybe they'll be with the Tesla rental fleet that they've been doing in many cities,
right.
but likely case is that it'll be with the with Robotaxi in Vegas.
Speaking of window washers on cameras, NISTA today decided that they were going to continue and or upgrade whatever it is the investigation into whether Teslas that are on FSD uh, alert the driver fast enough to a vision problem. So whether the car is itself responding correctly to some kind of a rain or snow or fog or any kind of thing that's creating a vision problem. And then whether if it does recognize that it's got a difficult vision problem, not alerting the driver fast enough. And to further set it up, this morning I reported on my channel, if it recognizes that it's going to be in too much fog and it's going to not have very good vision,
Mhm.
then probably the driver has even less vision. So alerting the driver to the fact that it's a bad, you don't want the driver to take over. It's probably going to be worse if the driver takes over. Anyway, thoughts?
It's pretty quick in alerting the driver, and generally it's not even going to let you start FSD if one of the really important cameras is blocked. So there have been times where there's been snow covering one of the cameras, and I didn't like preheat the car long enough or whatever. The snow was still blocking the camera, and I tried to get it going, and it wouldn't let me get going. Then I walked around the car, and be like, "Oh, that one's blocked." So then I would clear that up. When a camera does get dirty or blocked, it does let you know very quickly. So I assume they're working off of like an old version of the software, and this will be a nothing burger.
Okay. All right. I hope you're right. So, lots of talk this week also about the competition. So, lots of competitors. Gary Black is just sitting there going, yeah, 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 more competitors. Anyway, so we've had Uber, Rivian, we've had Lucid, and somebody, I forget who they were pairing up with. We have NVIDIA saying that they're pairing up with everybody. We got Mercedes saying that they're almost there. We got Hyundai saying that they're only a year away and they're going to be better than Tesla. Any of those causing you to lose sleep?
No, there's a there's a reviewer in Canada. I think his name is Devin Olson. He reviewed where Rivian is with their self-driving currently. It's nowhere close. And most of the time it won't even engage. Um, so like it's not very good. Uber just threw $1.3 billion at Rivian. I think they realize that Tesla's not gonna do a deal with them with
Yeah,
Uber as far
yeah.
as putting their cars on the Uber app or whatnot. So they're trying to help fund, the rest of autonomy, but um, you're you're funding a lot of versions that um, are, they're behind the eight ball. Rivian's they're doing LiDAR with their R2, so it's gonna be more expensive, and they're just way behind compared to where they need to be. Mercedes has been talking tough for a long time. Um, in 2020, my wife got a work car, and the guy at Mercedes, like, you know, anytime they can, Mercedes can just decide to make it self-driving, world-class German engineering and it like all the Mercedes can do for the most part is, drive your car in a traffic jam.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
And it has like these, specific conditions.
right.
Has to be sunny, under 40 miles an hour. Like it allegedly can't drive itself on the highway.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it can do, driver assist or,
Mhm,
lane keeping,
mhm.
etc., adaptive cruise control, but beyond that, it can't do that at speed. I
Right.
mean, it can't do self-driving at speed
Self-driving. Right, right,
or
right.
lane changing.
Yeah. Okay. So none of those are causing you to lose sleep. Now, if I was going to be in a betting pool on this, I would
I,
be
I'll add, like, I invite Gary to try the Rivian in similar conditions in Chicago,
right.
or the Lucid or whatever. I think he'll find that it just won't. It's just not going to function.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the two that would be, in my mind, maybe the most likely to get there, maybe not anywhere close to the same time as Tesla, would be Xpeng and Hyundai.
Hmm.
Hyundai already has a lot of robotics experience, and they are making a lot of claims right now for the first time. They've been very
Hmm.
quiet. And then Japan, a lot of people have driven that one and reported back on it. It seems to be pretty darn good. So, but other than that, I don't think any of these. And then in terms of losing sleep, it's like, okay, you can have some share. You can,
Yeah,
great, have 5% or 10% market share. Just leave me 25% worldwide, and I'm going to be thrilled.
that's right. We'll take it.
We'll take it. All right. Speaking of Rivian for one more minute, you're an analyst. That's one of the things you
Mhm.
do. You analyze companies. You try to decide,
Yeah.
whether companies have a good chance of performing well in the future, well enough to buy their stock, etc. If I was looking at Rivian right now, I'd be saying that the only thing they're good at is taking money from partners with promises for the future. And they don't know how to sell cars. They may be okay at making cars, but not good enough that they sell themselves. So would you be ever be an investor? I can't even imagine myself thinking about investing in Rivian, even if I had a lot of dough.
It's possible, but we don't like investing in, um in players that, we don't even think are going to be top three in the race,
Mhm. Got it.
and just not sure what Rivian's long-term advantage is going to be. It does have nice style, and if you have Elon derangement syndrome, then you might buy a Rivian instead of getting a Tesla.
Gives you an option.
Hmm.
Right.
But
Um,
I'm impressed by how much they narrowed their loss.
okay.
So they greatly reduced their quarterly loss. So, coming into the launch of the R2, I think it's promising that they have a strong chance of turning into profitability.
Mm, okay. But then they
But
made,
just like the limited scale they have.
yeah, I was going to say, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the problem. Are you guys going to come up with a shipment number for this quarter before the second when we get the news? Um, any,
Probably not. Recently, we mainly been looking at what Troy Teslaike's been at, and then kind of just thinking from there, looking at his arguments and deciding from there, where Tesla might be from there.
but he's no longer doing it, is he?
I don't know that
Okay.
it'd be news to me if he stopped, but
Well,
he's
he,
on Patreon. He doesn't really post on X, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
think, mainly he's on Patreon.
Well, so I belong to his Patreon, and the last in November and December, he was kind of posting once in a while, and then
Hmm.
in January, I think he completely skipped, and I don't I know I got a note that said, he's not charging Patreon members right now, but I haven't seen another note that said he's gone
Oh,
back to charging Patreon members.
well, I hope he's doing okay.
I hope he's doing okay too, but I guess I'll check that today to see whether Troy is out there. So would you have even a guess or a thought right now as to whether the 345 to 375,000 is looks good to you or not looks good? Maybe guys are not playing the game at all this time, huh?
That seems really low to me.
Okay.
So I don't, I haven't been tracking all the incentives, but I feel like the incentives have been pretty light
Hmm.
this quarter. Now I'll say, my wife has a big point that might be relevant. She said to me, and this was a few weeks ago, she said, Elon Musk doesn't want to sell cars. So, maybe they don't really care as much going into the launch of Robotaxi and Cybercab.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe volumes are low and they're just not really bothering to do incentives because they just don't care as much, or maybe they think the value of the car is going to go up after 14.3. Maybe they'll advertise once once we have 14.3.
Well, it could be the free cash flow is more interesting to him right now than numbers. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, you sell a few less, but you don't have the incentive, so you make more, which happened in the fourth quarter.
Hmm. Yeah.
Higher gross margins, higher net margins. I hadn't thought of that before. Because right now, what does he need? He needs lots of cash. He's already
Hmm.
spending 20 billion next year on R&D, and now he's talking about adding the Terafab, which I don't think won't cost anything at all. It's
And they're soon to be shutting down the S and X. So I think you're being sarcastic about the terafab. So chip factories are very expensive.
you didn't catch you had to make sure I was being sarcastic.
They tend to cost like, I don't know, like 10 billion or more.
Yeah, or a lot more. Yeah, yeah.
And Tesla said their capex was 20 billion this year, and that's without counting the terafab or the solar fab.
Right, right. Yeah, lots of money. So I think maybe that could be your wife could have a great point. Are you going to make a guess on deployments? I know that's even a more difficult eel to catch in your hands, but
Where are you at on that?
I haven't thought about it yet. I was going to ask you, and I was just going to copy you.
I'm gonna take the under on yours. You tend to run optimistic, and that's all right.
No, no kidding.
Randy's our optimist, so it's our good news Thursday, right?
That's right. That's right. No, I haven't looked at it yet. I would expect a beat compared to last quarter. I would expect it to be the best quarter ever.
Yeah, I
That,
I would expect it to as well.
yeah, yeah,
It should start marching higher. Shanghai has been they've had the factory for coming up on a year, so they should start to kick it in the higher gear, though. I think let's see. I'd have to look at the numbers again, but I think it was more than 4 quarters until Lathrop got really going. But maybe just by a quarter or two.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You were out there. You were out there doing the count,
Hmm.
trying to decide how come they'd only ramped half the factory. I remember all this.
Yeah,
I don't remember my kids' birthdays, but I remember when you were out there counting
counting Megapack.
counting big packs.
I literally, watched. There's a huge bay door at the end of the factory, and then they have these straddle loaders that pick up these um, train container size, batteries. They're like a bright red, and then they move them to a spot in the parking lot, and then drop them in that spot until the truck comes and hauls them away. So they could ship as many as they wanted from the parking lot, but what I counted was how many of these mega packs left the factory over that time period. So I was counting production.
Yeah, yep. Remember it well. So anyway, you said that what if I told you, this is the quote from X.
Okay.
What if I told you there was a company trading at 5.5x, so I assume a PE of 5.5, their next quarter's annualized profits had a
Hmm.
zero point zero 0.06 price to earnings ratio, or price to earnings growth rather, and
Hmm.
forecasted more than double earnings and had just had a better quarter than Tesla's ever had, and
Hmm.
profits will more likely double from here. So, and then I'm just really curious who that is.
Yeah, so I tease that. And so the price to earnings growth, that's called the PEG ratio.
Right.
And typically a PEG ratio is going to be a one or higher.
Okay.
So for a lot of growth companies, it's at least one. Sometimes it could be like 1.3 or 1.5. Some companies have been around a long time. They'll trade at a crazy multiple. Um, so like Procter and Gamble's at like a four or a five
Wow.
PEG ratio. Um, so 0.06 PEG ratio. It's like one of the lowest I've ever seen
Okay.
of a company that's rapidly growing their earnings. So that company is Micron
Oh, that's Micron.
Technology.
Oh, I see. Okay. Wow.
They just had their earnings. We didn't we didn't really own them going into earnings. We did own them earlier last year. Um, but as of today's date, we do own Micron stock, and it's not investment advice. And past performance is no indicator of future results. And do your own research. In my opinion, for entertainment purposes only, trade at your own risk. So, I want to share a little bit of like how I look at a stock from a valuation standpoint.
Sure.
Um, so the fear around Micron is that they're a memory producer, and in the past, memory chips have been a commodity.
We're starting to talk about old age again here. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go back. I'm sorry.
Um, So with a commodity, what can happen is the stock trades at a low PE at the peak of a cycle. So you see this with oil stocks a lot. You see it with like car stocks with the cycle in the economy.
Mhm.
So the PE will drop below 10, but then the earnings will drop because your earnings just peaked and then they drop, so then the PE goes from below 10 to like 20, 30, or it might even slip into losing money
Yeah.
for a few quarters. Did you want to comment on that?
Nope. Nope. I'm good.
No. All right, so I want to share my screen here. Let's see. So this is from Micron's financial results. And this is the nerd, the CFO.
Okay.
So we're gonna go right to the nerdy stuff, the nerd numbers. Um, so their revenue quarter over quarter, so just in the last 3 months, their revenue is up 75%. Um, year over year on the quarter, the revenue is tripled. Um, So, revenue in a quarter, 23.6 billion. I think that might be better than any quarter Tesla's had.
Okay. Right. Right. Close. They might
But
have had a
from an
little.
earnings standpoint, they've also and there's mainly two types of memory. So there's DRAM. Um, that revenue tripled year over year, and then the NAND, I think that's like flash memory. So demand for memory is way up because your more memory allows you to do bigger AI models,
Hmm.
and it gives your CPUs more information to work off of if you have that memory located very close to the processor.
Hmm.
Um, so average selling prices have gone way up. So mid 60s, so like over 60%. For NAND, it was high 70s%. Um, then I'm gonna jump down a bit, and like even they're boring like automotive um ended up jumping quite a bit, and the consumer electronics um and they're deciding not to sell like some of the lower margin consumer electronics and have those factories make the juicier stuff.
Right, right.
So net income in one quarter, 14 billion. This is, I believe it's an NVIDIA moment
Yeah.
that they're having. And I feel like this is similar to when NVIDIA first crossed $400. So
Mm.
split adjusted $40. And
Hmm.
this was in May of 2023. And you had all these people come on CNBC and act all skeptical.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I'll tell you about skepticism in the stock. So then they had a this crazy guide, but we're still on cash flow. So cash flow from operations, 12 billion. They paid off a bunch of debt. They increased their dividend. Um, they're talking about their history of um, buying back shares and paying dividend. Um, they talked about their capex, so their capex is going to be 25 billion over the next year,
wow,
and then growing like 35 billion the year after that.
wow.
But again, cash from operations was 12 billion in one quarter, so
Right, right.
they got that covered. And what I've heard is that these factories pay for themselves in less than a year, so it's like a Tesla factory.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, their guidance was crazy. So they just posted 23 billion in revenue
Hmm.
this past quarter. So the next quarter they say is going to be 33 billion in revenue.
Wait a minute,
So
wait a
so quarter over quarter
minute.
you're going to have another 40% growth in revenue,
Yeah,
and that their gross margin is going to be 81%. Earnings per share, which we'll come back to, is $19 in one quarter. Earnings per share.
yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about gross margins for a second. Let me go to the consolidated numbers real quick. So a year ago, their gross margin was 38%. This quarter was 75%. So they doubled their gross margin, their profit at the factory level, so to speak,
Yeah,
before you get to overhead. Um, and a lot of this uh, dropped to dropped to the bottom line.
sure.
So you had about a 15 billion increase in gross profit, and net income grew by 12 billion. So like the they didn't suddenly just spend a bunch of money at headquarters. So huge increase in gross margin. So obviously business is really good. But
Yeah.
let's talk about this earnings per share. So this is for one quarter, and we're also not at the top of the cycle
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
um, for memory chips. We're just getting started. It's going to continue for at least in my opinion 2 more years, and they're increasing production. Um, and they still think they're going to come out of this production increase being short memory chips, like not providing enough for their customers,
Right, right,
which means high prices. So
right.
they think prices are still going to be high 2 to 3 years from now. So right now the stock is being valued as if prices are going to get cut in half 2 or 3 years from now.
Okay.
That the cycle will be over.
I see. I see.
And you're just going to revert to the way things were before. Um, so $19 per share on a quarterly basis. If you annualize it, so multiply by four because
Hmm.
it's just increasing from here.
Right,
That's $76 per share minimum over the
right.
next four quarters. The stock is around 445 today. So it's trading at a price to earnings that's um, less than six, and earnings are growing.
Yeah.
So
So,
it's one of the cheapest stocks, and it's growing massively. So they're not like resting on their laurels. They're building a factory in Idaho. They're starting a second building in Idaho. They're building a factory in New York. They're building a factory in Japan. So it's also similar to NVIDIA. So in spring of 2023, we knew NVIDIA was going to more than double their supply of their
mhm,
chips
mhm,
with TSMC.
mhm.
So this it was called chip on wafer on substrate. So this the
Right,
CoWoS,
right, right, right. I remember that.
and
Yes.
that their supply more than doubled even after they had this breakout year in 2023.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we're going to see something similar with Micron. Um,
Well, what would be the
yeah.
what would be the speculation that 3 years from now it's going to peak and go away? I mean, if you now I know there are people, lots of people that don't think Nvidia is going to continue to be able to grow. Certainly not maybe at the same level. I could even agree with that. Probably you're not going to be able to get 20% growth on top of 40% growth on top, but why do they believe that Micron wouldn't continue to grow at least as fast as Nvidia?
In my opinion, it's a psychological block and inertia of that way of thinking. So historically, memory uh, memory chip makers have always been a commodity.
Okay.
Um, so people think of them as commodities, and um, so I think that's the main mental block.
Okay.
Now there is a technology that's coming out from SanDisk that's called high bandwidth flash, which I think uses less power than high bandwidth memory. Um, but that's only they're only going to start making that toward the end of 2027,
Okay.
and they won't be at scale then. And they're co-developing that with, I believe, SK Hynix or Samsung. Um, so there are some threats, and you know, there have been cycles, but you're also like betting against AI. You're betting against Optimus. You're betting against self-driving cars. Like all these things need a lot of memory. Um, even in the units that you get where it already has the model and you're not like training a new model,
Hmm.
you still need a lot of memory for what's called inference, where you're using the model to do real world work.
Yeah. Okay. So you're pretty sure that this is a long-term great company, and you've made a bet on that, and but the stock went down. after the earnings call.
Yeah,
So just
we were thrilled.
because you bought in, yeah. So is there a was this just the market and the war, or do you think people were just like that wasn't enough? I mean, what do you think went on that the stock went down?
So my theory is, uh, so our investment style, we tend to be growth investors, but we're contrarian.
Okay, yep.
And when companies get discovered and and suddenly there's a re-rating in the stock and it shoots up, what can happen is people who don't understand the company, they'll see the price action
Oh,
in the stock and they're just momentum traders and they'll just come in and buy shares and hope that it goes higher and they're essentially tourists in the stock.
yeah,
um, so I think what happened with Micron is you had people that were playing it just for earnings, or they were in there for momentum.
hmm,
And as soon as the report came out, the stock fizzled. And I think it's because these momentum people just got, cold feet and
well,
to go elsewhere.
yeah, I was going to say, or either cold feet or, hey, I've made my money. In fact, that's what the reporting was this morning on this channel with regard to gold and silver, is that gold and silver trade on their fundamentals until they don't. Then the hot hands come in, the smart guys come in, they bid the thing up, and it's all fluff. And Larry Goldberg and we're still not right yet, but
Mhm.
I'm at 350, 340, 350 on gold is my expectation of where it goes back to. And he's, I think, at 250, 2,500, 3,500. And
Okay.
we just came under 5,000. So it's not impossible. Anyway, but yeah, I get it. So it's the same idea might have happened to Micron.
Yeah, so I think this is something that we're trying to keep in mind going forward is we tend to be early to ideas
Hmm.
because we're contrarians. So
Hmm.
we're looking for a company that's experiencing a lot of growth,
Hmm.
but they're not getting credit for it.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
belief isn't there. There's a lot of skepticism. Um, but then when, suddenly the market agrees with you, then you have a bunch of, momentum people coming in,
yeah.
and those are not like the friends you want to have as like
Okay.
fellow investors in the company that you're in.
Well, taking that as a lead in, I've really been just for the last couple of days, I talked about what Tesla's going to do with this chip fab.
Hmm.
And one of the things that Elon's talking about, which if you'd asked me a year ago, I wouldn't even know what you were talking about. But we've all learned so much this year. So Elon's talking about combining the wafer with the memory and doing the packaging all in one facility rather than three different companies halfway around the world from each other doing
Hmm.
each of these steps. So what do you think of I know this much. That's about all I know, except that it
Yeah.
sounds smart. What do you think?
I think it'd be helpful. So, like a lot of memory gets made in South Korea. So, SK Hynix is the largest memory maker, and then you have Samsung, and then Micron is a um, healthy peer along with Samsung, and Micron's mainly makes it in the U.S. And there's some factories in Asia, mainly Japan. Um, and maybe there's one in like Singapore or something. Um, but a lot of wafers get made in Taiwan for the GPUs or for the AI boards.
Yeah, yeah,
So so like y- when you're making the chips from the wafer, you're doing the ultraviolet lithography. It's called extreme ultraviolet lithography, EUV, and it's burning a pattern into the wafer, and then you stack stuff on top of it with packaging. So Elon's just talking about, putting that all together, which makes sense to me.
Okay, all right. And I'll ask you because nobody else seems to know yet, and we would all be speculating anyway. Elon says that he's not, you'll be able to smoke a cigarette and eat a Big Mac in the production facility on these wafers and chips and memory, et cetera, which normally you're talking about a very expensive clean room. Any theories on how he's going to accomplish that?
It's it's a very hardcore process. So from what I've heard, you're needing helium as a gas, and helium's very hard to come by. You only get it when you harvest natural gas. So when you harvest it the first time, you got to capture the helium there. So the war now, Iran and the missile attacks on the natural gas facilities do affect the market for helium.
Hmm.
Um, and you need the helium at a low temperature. Um, so clean rooms with low temperature. Uh, if we can somehow get around that, that would be huge. But it sounds to me like a repeat of Battery Day. Uh, the dry battery cathode.
Yeah,
Um, and that took probably 5 years longer than they expected. So
right.
they thought within a year they were going to be rocking and rolling
Yeah, yeah,
on 4680, Drew Baglino and Elon
right,
Musk, and
right.
that didn't happen. It took 5 years longer than
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
or maybe four. Um, so if they're hanging their hat exclusively on being able to do that, it's risky, but I'm guessing Elon knows something that we don't.
Kind of, well, maybe the better analogy would be Corpus Christi and the lithium refining, which probably took
Mhm.
them a year longer than they expected, but it is now up and running and using completely new processes and completely new methods
Yeah.
at
A new,
dramatically less
yeah,
cost.
new way of refining lithium that uses a waste product uh, to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
to do the whole process with a third less cost, which is wild
right,
and better for the environment.
right.
Nobody figured it out before Tesla did, and they were the first.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm guessing y- when they built that factory, that lithium factory, they knew about this process they were going to try.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm guessing it's the same thing here. So I'm hopeful that it'll work, and um, I do think it'll be a big deal and lower costs. But right now, making the chips really isn't that bad. It's just that they're in like such short supply and they're so useful that then Nvidia and others stack on a ton of profit on top of it. So like whatever Nvidia is paying for the chips, essentially, then they stack on three times more to the cost to the
Sure,
price. So they
sure,
have
sure.
75% margin. That means the
Yeah,
cost is 25%.
yeah, yeah.
So then you're stacking on 3 units of profit onto that 1 unit of cost. And similarly with Micron, they're going to have 1 unit of cost and
Right,
4 units of profit on top of that. That's
right.
80% margin.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is, as a manufacturer, that is unheard of. In my little water bottle plant, we were at 50% margins. And my banker, that was the main reason my banker stayed with me because most of the rest of my business practices weren't that great. But he says anybody that can do 50% margins is always a threat that he's going to do a lot better in the future. So for 28 years, we managed to make 50% margins.
Nice.
All right. Well, anything else to say about the battery? I mean, not the battery, the chip fab. We got that announcement tomorrow or Saturday.
Yeah, maybe they break ground and start to get the shell of a building going, but my guess is that what's truly starting, they did a ton of hiring a few months ago, really kicked that off. Um, I think I think it's shortly after the shareholder meeting. So, um, my guess is that they're going to be, looking to lock in the design and how that factory is set up. So they might not necessarily. Um, I'd be surprised if they totally decided on the design.
Well,
Um,
the new hire that they asked for or that they're seeking right now included as one of the things on the list, the design of the factory itself.
yeah.
It's, I think you're probably
But
right.
I think that'll take a few months.
Mhm.
So, really, you don't want to lock in the perimeter of the
Mhm.
building 100% until you have that design locked in.
Right, right, right.
Because there could be critical processes that fit in at the end or the beginning. Like we invested in a company that does burn-in and testing of wafers of once the devices are cut out,
Mhm.
cut into the wafers, and you have everything there. They specialize in burn-in and testing of those devices, so you know which ones are going to still be working like 2 years later.
Right.
So burn-in just stresses them a little extra, and that part comes at the very end. So if you
Mhm.
don't have enough space at the end, then you can't have them there at your facility. So then you got to ship them out for burn-in and testing, and that's not ideal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's 100% right. Okay. All right. Well then, anything else on your mind today before we say adieu? Other than the fact that you won't be with me next week. I mean, you could
Yeah,
call in from the vacation,
but we've had this beautiful weather come through, so like,
have you? Okay.
and I think it's heading to the East Coast, so I think everyone's getting some good weather for
Nice. Yeah,
spring break.
ours is nice if you like 99. We're having like the hottest March ever because of course global warming, what would you expect?
Yeah, so I guess the other thing I'd add is just the obvious thing is like, Micron had an Nvidia moment. Just they guided for 15 billion in revenue. The street was at 20, and they did 23. Um, they had more profits in a quarter than Tesla ever had in a quarter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and they're just getting started, which is crazy. Um, but the stock went down. Like there was nothing negative from the call.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So there wasn't like
NVIDIA
a
went,
lower guide. Like normally the stock goes down if the guide is bad or
I know,
whatever.
I
And
know.
so the stock went down. So like it's just a good reminder of that, the market it doesn't always make sense. It's a
Right.
natural system
Yeah,
driven by humans,
yeah,
and
yeah,
humans have emotions and other things going on. Sometimes they overinvest in the stock, and then they got to, pull back at the worst possible time.
yeah, yep, yep. Because NVIDIA, after their great earnings, is still sitting at 178. It's like,
Mhm.
what?
Yeah, and here's the crazy thing about NVIDIA. So I don't know if it's Jensen, but someone at NVIDIA said they were going to do in 2027 they're going to do 1 trillion in revenue.
Yeah, okay. So I think we got to straighten that out. I'm glad you brought it up because a lot of
Okay.
people I think are confused, okay?
Oh,
Because I think there was reporting that that was
Oh,
what they were saying, but that's not what he said.
okay.
He said we will basically, I can't quote it exactly, but roughly speaking, it's we will book $1 trillion over the next 24 months.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So the 500
Fake
billion that
news.
the 500 billion that they're expecting to do next year is still the 500 billion they're expecting to do next year,
Hmm.
but that they will book a trillion. He says, so then, think about what that means for 2028.
Okay.
Yeah. Or
You
2020.
raised your hand, by the way. You may want to take that down.
I don't even know how to.
Zoom did it to you.
You know, I don't know why it does it. I don't know how to stop it. I don't, what do I know? I've only been
If
doing this
you're on a Mac and you do like a double thumbs up, it'll do fireworks. It's all
fireworks.
crazy. Yeah. Are you on a Mac?
I am.
You got to hold it though.
Oh, you got to hold it.
Let's see. Oh, it's not doing it.
No, just thumbs up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's get right to the numbers.
All right, then. Thank you so much, as always, for jumping on and enjoy your vacation next week. We'll see you in a couple. Okay, well, the numbers are in, and there is a little bit of a reversal of almost everything that happened earlier today. So, in the regular trading time, so Tesla, which was down a total of 3.18%, closing at 380 and 30 cents, is up a tad, up 50 cents, as is the whole market. So this is not any kind of a Tesla specific thing, but rather the market is back up and Tesla is following it. Let's go ahead and look, of course, at bonds which had been screaming higher or screaming low. Anyway, you know what I mean. The yields had been going up, up, up. Has taken a little breather also, and so they're down 3.2 basis points, back to 4.25. Again, I would expect this to be continue to be volatile. While the two things we talked about the other day is what really happens to the price of oil, because that impacts inflation, even though it doesn't. But what does impact inflation is if the government has to print money, and they may have to print money in order to pay for the war. In fact, they almost certainly will have to print money, but is it enough to literally cause inflation? That is yet to be known. Okay, and then and then oil down $1.14. So again, reversing what happened earlier today at $95 exactly. And Brent now is even higher comparatively at 107.5. Natural gas, which had been popping up this morning, back down to 312. That's down 1.55 in the pre-market. And then gold, which dropped dramatically today, is up 1.15% at 4,658. So all we have to do is repeat what's already happened, and Larry will be right. I think if we go down, not by percent, but by dollars, we'd be in the 20s. Silver down, I mean up as it usually does. It goes up and down on a percentage basis more than gold usually. So back up 2.75, but still sitting at $73. And then copper, which I told you about this morning, the reasons why copper seems to be swinging the way it is. And it is up a little bit now, up 1% but still 553. That is the lowest in many, many months. The dollar is a little bit easing, it says, but it's barely. Bitcoin down 742. So it's one that continued its active. Well, it's the same day. That's right. So it was down more than this. That's right. So it was down more than this. So the fact that it's still the same day, it has corrected. So it's now only down 714. It was under 70,000. Now it's back over 70,000 at 70,430. And Ethereum staying above 2,000 at 2151 is down 1.71. Now the equities, we have got all of them up slightly. It's really not a lot. 0.15 for the Dow, 0.20 for the S&P, and 0.19 for the NASDAQ. So that is what's happening with those. In this kind of a volatile situation, what happens between now with the pre-market just opening and tomorrow morning could be radically different. All it takes is one statement from Hegseth or Powell or from uh, the president or a whole list of people. It just takes like one comment, and the market could be completely turned around. All right, that's all I got for you today. And other than the fact that, yes, it's true, Cern Basher will have a very special show on tonight. I mean, it's very unique. I think it's the first time that he and I have ever done a show like this. So that'll be on around 7-ish, 7:15 California time. So look forward to that. And then there's a couple of books on the shelf. You see, I got my new one finally. I got this new book called the Elon Musk Magic. I hear it's amazing. I hear it's a fast read. I would highly recommend it. Anyway, go buy the book. And then you got AI Rising, which has just gotten, we're almost at 100 reviews and still sitting in the mid 90s. Yeah, that's pretty dang good. So thank you very much for those of you who may have participated in one of those reviews. That's all. Now that's all I've got. And tomorrow is another day. We'll see what that brings. It's been great talking to you.